try not to scare the people eating outdoors here at BB Lemon. Yes.
Get everybody turn around looking at us.
If I'd given it the full treatment, we would have scared some people away. I'm pretty sure. Welcome, my friends, to this fine little program, the world famous Smoking and Toasting.
Hi, Mom.
Show number 177. It's Irish whiskey and Oliva Cigars live at BB Lemon in Houston on Washington Ave, right across from B&B Butchers and Restaurant, who bring you the show. They're at 1814 Washington Ave. They're in the shops at Clear Fork and Fort Worth. And in addition to BB Lemon, BB Italia on Memorial in Houston, and the Annie Cafe and Bar on Post Oak Boulevard in Houston. Also, we have a new sponsor this week. Excited to announce. The show is now also brought to you by Corona Beer, whose new slogan is, "We swear to God we had nothing to do with it."
Oh, boy.
No, I'm just kidding. Corona.
Well, I'm
Corona's
amazed
not
that
really
people actually think that.
Their sales are off in a, significant way. It's not like they're down a little. They're way off.
Man, name recognition, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you.
And what's up with this toilet paper scare? I don't get it.
That's so weird.
Yeah, that is the weirdest thing ever. I think anytime there's a scare of any kind, people go, what would be the worst scenario? No toilet paper. So they go and just stock
I can think
up.
of a few worse things, but
Maybe.
I'm just going to point out, as long as you got running water, you'll be fine.
oh, you're so French.
From back in the day. Well, welcome to the show. Trenton is here, Trenton Smith from Oliva Cigars, and we are hoping still to be joined by Jeremiah Butler. Now, the original concept for the show today is that we were going to be Jeremiah was going to be parading out a bunch of Irish whiskeys and walking us through an Irish whiskey tasting, and Trenton was going to be here to talk about Oliva Cigars, and we were going to be smoking Oliva Cigars. Some of that's still happening, but we're not sure if Jeremiah is going to make it or not. They've got some things going on at B&B that he's responsible for and got to take care of, so we are hoping that he joins us. I brought Irish whiskeys, and there's some Irish whiskey available from the bar here at BB Lemon, and Trenton, of course, is here with Oliva Cigars, and we have already lit up. So what are you smoking there, Ian?
Oh, I've got the Serie V Milanio.
Not the Serie 5.
Now, I was
Not the
going to ask you,
Serie 5.
Is it really Serie 5, or do
No,
people
it's
call it
Serie
Serie
V.
V?
It's
Okay.
Serie V.
Well, see, I've to be honest, gone back and forth because I didn't know which was correct.
And it's Oliva, not
Oliva.
Olivia.
Yeah, that
Right, so
part,
many people.
that part I
Oliva.
know. Yeah, Oliva. Yeah, from the Oliva tobacco family.
Yes.
Right. So you are smoking one of my absolute favorite Oliva products.
Master blend.
Yeah, those are
Master
great.
Blend. Yeah, so good, so good. In fact, I had one of those earlier this week, and just that cigar is always a treat.
I think it was about a year ago, I tipped into Lone Star Cigars one day and saw that Lancero that you have there. And I was like, I haven't seen this. I have
This
to snap
is
up a few. And they're
the
so
Serie
good.
V/5 in the Lancero size. And so why is this cigar so good?
Okay, first of all, I brought this selection because that got number one. The Figurado, Milanio Figurado got number one
So
in
good.
2014 in
Yeah,
Cigar
so good.
Aficionado. The Lancero got number 7 this year. And then I just love the Master Blend. So,
Master Blends are great.
So back to the Lancero, it kind of goes back to a purist point of view. Back in Cuba, the master cigar rollers, they loved the skinny, long cigars, and that's called a Lancero. The reason for that, it proportionately has more wrapper to filler, and the wrapper is the most expensive part of the cigar. It takes
And
the
where
most
most
care.
of the flavor comes from.
Correct,
Yeah,
because you're
right.
actually touching your mouth to it, and it's on your lips, so you're going to get a lot more flavor from that. Now, the bigger the cigar, the filler and the wrapper are going to have, or the filler and the binder are going to have a little bit more of an impact, but on a Lancero, the wrapper is going to have a lot more impact on the flavor.
Well, and that's why a blender, like just the idea of being a blender and taking the same profile through a bunch of different shapes and sizes is pretty amazing because you're trying to get the same flavor profile.
Oh, yeah. This is the part I
with
just don't know how they
completely
do it.
variable
Yeah.
thing.
I just don't know how
this
they do
one's
it.
gonna have more filler because it's a bigger cigar. Now, how do I get it to taste back like the smaller
Like
one,
the Lancero taste,
or
right,
whatever?
yeah.
You know,
Right,
like
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
crazy.
Well, and the Lancero is made by our most seasoned veterans, the most talented cigar makers because there's a lot less room for air.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
if you put a little bit too much tobacco in it, it's going to be a miserable experience.
It's
'cause
real
gonna-
easy to plug up.
It
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
is. Now, on the other hand, the figurados are very hard to make also, and our most experienced cigar rollers will make these because if you look at it, there's going to be less tobacco at the
head and the foot,
head
in
and the
this
foot.
case. Yep.
And you have to get it right proportionately or it's not going to taste right.
Well, you were talking about how you have to have the best ones to make the Lanceros as well as the Figurados. Look at the burn on that.
Perfect.
Absolute perfection. Ian? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking
And it
about.
all starts with a good cut and light.
Yeah, it does. It really does. But I will tell you that, and Oliva Cigars, all of your cigars, by the way, including the Melanio and the Master Blend, are I think very reasonably priced for particularly for what you get for the cigars.
I think Oliva cigars are one of the absolute most reasonably priced cigars on the market.
When I first started smoking cigars, Oliva was one of my very first favorite blends. And unlike some of my favorite brands from that day, I still smoke them regularly. Because some of them, used to be my favorite. I just kind of moved away and went to other things. There's always Olivas in my humidor. And not because I let them sit there.
And our newest cigar, which came out about 3 years ago, is a tribute to our patriarch, Gilberto. So
Right.
Gilberto Oliva, and that cigar is wonderful. We have it in a Connecticut wrapper, and that's the Blanc. And then we also have it in an Indonesian Sumatra wrapper, and that's going to have just a little bit of spice to it. But price point.
It may
Price-
be one of the best cigars you can buy for that price.
It's
just
perfect. It's $6-7.
Yeah.
And it smokes like a
I've had the
much
Connecticut.
more expensive.
Yeah, that's
it really does.
outstanding.
It really does. So really, all of your cigars, I think, punch a little outside their weight class in terms of price to quality. And certainly, I know every time we've reviewed an Oliva on the show, it's always done really well on our price to quality scale, which is how we like to rate things. Because if you go out and pay $18 for a cigar, it's going to be tough for that to smoke like better than an $18 cigar. But you can pay $5 or $6 or $8 for one and go, wow, this is smoking way better than what I paid. And so that's why we like to use that scale and work things out.
Yeah,
that
it's
way.
so similar to whiskeys or wine. I mean, everybody has that sweet spot. Everybody has that number that they don't want to go over. And if you do go over it, it better be really good.
Yeah,
Yes,
it has to be that kind of good.
Right,
I mean,
because you're thinking of it as more of a special occasion thing. It's like, man, I love the Padron Anniversarios, but I'm not the guy that can afford to smoke one of those every time I reach.
Come
in the
on
humidor.
now.
I mean, they're great. They
don't smoke
really are
5 of
good.
those a day at $30 a pop?
Well,
Come on.
Yeah, I just don't tell you guys about it because I don't want you to.
You don't want us to be
I don't
jealous
want,
on
I
you?
don't want you to be either like stop hanging out with me or B, hang out with me all the time and expect me to always
Oh
pay.
man,
So-
I didn't bring
Yeah,
a cigar.
yeah.
You got another one?
Alligator arms.
Exactly.
Can't find my wallet.
So we're going to do some interesting tasting today. We kind of put our own Irish whiskey tasting together, and we'll be tasting several things that I brought along. I brought a fresh new bottle of Slane, which we've tasted on the show before and determined that it was, you're talking about things that punch outside their weight class, that it was really one of the better whiskeys we'd tried in its price range.
Absolutely,
You
absolutely.
can pick that up for $30 or less.
I
for a
think
bottle.
the first time we tried that, they had it as a special, and the bartender up at Reserve 101 was
Yes.
telling us about it.
And she was very excited about it because she said they all, they brought it in and all the bartenders and stuff were doing a tasting on it. And they were all guessing they were going to be selling it for much more
Right.
than what they ultimately did. And so she suggested it to us that first time we tried it, and it was great.
there have been a few bottles go through my house.
Yes. Oh, they're definitely worth
Well,
it.
I started thinking, because you called me earlier. You said, hey, man, do you have any Irish whiskeys at your house? And I said, maybe. Turns out I have about a sip of Tullamore Dew left in one bottle. And I can't tell. I think it's a sip because it's in the crock, in the
Yes.
in the
A little hard to
ceramic
tell. Yeah.
bottle. But
Well-
it barely makes a sound when you say. And I realized what happened to all my Irish whiskey. I drank it all.
That can be
That's what you're supposed to do.
that can be an issue with whiskey.
Drink it all.
Sometimes it's gone because
I didn't drink it all at once, but I did drink it all.
Well, I did bring some Tullamore Dew. I brought a Tullamore Dew single malt.
Oh,
Actually,
you brought
that
the
we'll
fancy stuff.
Yeah, that we'll be tasting. And then Jameson's has a special series that's their distiller blend and they I brought one of those that I'll be kind of bringing out a little later. But their head distiller, their master distiller, this is his sort of private creation for Jameson.
That's awesome. I haven't seen that one actually before, but I know they've been hitting it out of park with the Cask Mates series. That Stout one especially is really, really good.
Well, this is called Blender's Dog. Apparently, he named it after his dog.
Nice.
So we'll be getting to that, and we may be breaking into the bar a little bit here at BB Lemon and tasting some of their things. By the way, this makes me think of the first show we did here at BB Lemon, where we did the cocktail show.
Yeah.
These guys can make some cocktails.
That was so
man.
good.
Especially
So good.
cocktails has become such a thing.
Yeah.
I like the way they do it here because they keep the menu fairly short.
Yeah.
There's like 7, maybe 8 really interesting and different cocktails. They don't make 400 of them,
Right.
but they make those 8
But wow,
really,
yes.
really well. Yeah, and so I
Wowzer.
love that they do that. So we have that Irish whiskey tasting coming up on the show. We of course will be talking Oliva Cigars, and we have some beers to taste. Aleworks Brewing is out of Fort Worth, Texas. We'll be tasting their Feisty Blonde.
I like
It's
Aleworks.
a honey vanilla blonde, and we have not had it on the show before, so I'm looking forward to that. Then from Athens, Ohio, Little Fish Brewing Company's Passionista. It's a barrel-aged sour ale with passion fruit.
That sounds fun.
That sounds fun. And then finally, I know you're probably not going to like this, Ian, but from Alementary Brewing in Hackensack, New Jersey.
I just love saying Hackensack, by the way.
Yes, it's one of the more fun. It sounds like a city and a sport.
Right.
You know?
Well, there's a Cut and Shoot Texas too,
Yeah.
which is very much the same. Sounds like
you
a
gotta
town and a
love it.
sport.
Yeah,
Doesn't
you
sound
gotta
like a
love
town.
it.
I'm sorry. I just
From
say that.
Cut and shoot.
Yeah,
Really?
Cut and Shoot. Yeah,
Texas,
if you're headed
yeah.
up on 105 towards Conroe, Cut and Shoot Texas. Now,
I like
look
it.
it up on a map. I swear.
I thought that was
I've driven through it.
I thought that was the name of the place that Jim Pruitt used to own. Maybe that was something else. Anyway, sorry, very inside joke
Yeah.
for the three of you though. That was good,
Three
wasn't
of
it?
I guess I'm not one of those three.
we'll tell you
We're
about
right
that
over
after the
that.
show. Yeah, from Alementary in Hackensack, we'll be tasting. Here's another fun word to say. Their Laniakea. It's a bourbon barrel-aged Imperial Stout. I hope you don't mind.
Say the name of it again.
Laniakea.
One more time.
Lania.
It's just fun to watch you try
Kea,
to say it.
Laniakea.
Laniakea.
Smoke's coming out of his
I don't
ears.
know if it's Hawaiian. It sounds Hawaiian, and I think if I lived in
does.
Hackensack, I'd be thinking about Hawaii a lot. As in,
Yeah, but I don't
got to
usually-
get out of
I don't
Hackensack
usually
and go
think
there.
of Hawaii and barley wines,
Well, maybe so.
but
Maybe so.
I love barley wine, so I'm excited about that.
We have a list we will share with you of the best Irish whiskeys for St. Patrick's Day, and you can weigh in and see if you agree with the list. I'm hoping Jeremiah will make it over for that because I would love to have his whiskey expertise. Now, Trenton, I know you have to drive right after the show, so you're
Unfortunately.
totally taking it easy on the tasting, and we understand, and we don't require our guests to taste, but they're always invited.
Oh,
And-
believe me, I would love to partake.
and speaking of invited, I'll give you the date that we're projecting for the 200th show. You might want to mark that on your calendar.
Can't
and
wait.
do two things. Make sure you're there because you'll be invited. And this is one to Uber to.
Yes, Uber to and from.
Unless you have somebody who can come pick you up like Jeremiah's wife did last year. So that's
Oh, nice.
that's a good thing
right.
to do. So, all right, let's take a break. We want to come back. We want to talk Oliva. We'll do a little bit of whiskey tasting, and we'll taste our first beer, the Feisty Blonde Honey Vanilla
Oh, we have
Blonde
to
Ale.
talk about what's going on tonight too.
Oh, that's right. So we'll tell you all about that. If you're in the Houston area, there's a great event with Florida Cognac Rum tonight, and we'll tell you all about that coming up. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome to the show. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. It's show number 177.
We are halfway to 200, sir.
And very excited about that. Yeah, 200 will
math.
be coming up. Yes,
School of Liberty.
We are live at BB Lemon, which is a sponsor of the show. BB Lemon is on Washington Ave, right across the street from B&B Butchers and Restaurant.
You can see
and by the
B&B
way,
from here. Look,
yeah,
it's right there.
And by the way, Ian, and it's beautiful. It's
gorgeous
to,
today.
To our viewers and listeners in states that are not Texas, and I know
Sorry.
we have a lot
Sorry.
of
You guys are going to hate it when I say this. It is what What did the temperature say? 81 degrees out
81
here with a
degrees,
breeze.
and it's beautiful. It's just absolutely
And it's like
beautiful.
this year-round.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in a sunbeam, and I'm not sweating to death today.
But don't move here if you've been exposed to the coronavirus, please.
Yes.
No, it's absolutely gorgeous out here. It's a perfect day for smoking cigars, and we're just thrilled to be at BB Lemon. Trenton, how did Oliva Cigars? What year did Oliva Cigars start producing? Is this one of those brands that goes way back?
Nah, like 22 years.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is like boom era
Correct.
that Oliva
Correct.
came around. That there were a lot of cigar companies that launched during the boom era.
Yep.
Most of them are
Most
long
of them are gone, yeah.
gone. Yeah. So clearly you guys were making a superior product, but that had to be a tough thing to do back in the boom time because it's tough to get tobacco.
Just give a lot of credit to the Oliva family because they took it. I mean, there's a term called something integrated. Now I'm
Vertical integration?
Vertically, thank you.
Yes.
I was just drawing a blank.
Yeah, that happens.
Vertically integrated, and that's where you are in control of every step of the process, from the planting of the seeds to the growing of the tobacco to the drying of the tobacco to the curing of it to the making of the cigars. We just opened up a box factory.
Nice.
Which is just beautiful.
Nice.
And so that's a whole nother part of the equation.
And speaking of which, hand me that Master Blends box here, because their boxes are just absolutely gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
I mean, take a look at that. That is a way above
I'm gonna
average
move this up to the
cigar
camera.
box. Yeah.
Although I have to set my mic down because I'm tethered today.
Yes, you forgot your wireless mic, and he's been pouting about it since he got here, folks. But that's a look at what the Master Blends box looks like, and hopefully our autofocus is working a little better in this segment. But Ian, I can tell you the box factory that makes these that's got to be an amazing place because this is not just slapped together.
Yeah, and just the box factory is just a whole new part of what we're doing. When you count on somebody else to make something for you, and we're finding it out right now with swag and things that we ordered through China. I mean,
Sure,
that's
yeah.
drying up pretty quickly. So
Yeah.
if you control making and just how well it's made, the quality control and everything,
That's
There's a lot-
back
there's a
to
lot
being
less things that can
that's
go
back
wrong.
to being your vertically integrated company. You're in control of every part that comes out.
Well, and of course, the bad news is if anything screws up, it's
your
your
fault.
fault.
It's definitely your
but
fault.
the good news is you don't have to deal with other people's screw-ups, and that's
right.
that's a wonderful thing.
Well,
You know,
that's
I remember our friend Stuart Skloss, who's with Pura Vida Tequila. They went through this whole thing at a part of their growth that they didn't get to grow as fast as the market was demanding, and it was because of the people who made the caps for the bottles.
Yeah, I remember
you
that.
know, and they were just there was nothing they could do. They couldn't keep bottling tequila because they were waiting on the caps, and whoever it was that was supplying them had, not met their deadlines. You know?
we go through that every now and then with tubos.
Yeah. Right. That you put into the
Correct.
tubes. Yes.
if,
yes.
if that supply chain dries up, we can't sell the tubos.
Mm-hmm.
And back to what you were saying about it's easier to control the quality when you're doing everything.
Right.
Just because we have so many control measures, so many inspections, and just all along the way. It's incredible. If you've ever seen the process, you would be amazed that this cigar is a $10 cigar.
Right.
That's also going to allow you to tweak your inventory substantially. And then even beyond that, if you decide to change a cigar, introduce a new size, you don't have to go through the whole design, send it out, get it back, see if it works and all that stuff.
Right.
You build them right there in shop and
Right.
tweak them as you go.
Right.
Now all we have to do is get the FDA on board.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. But you are right. When we got invited to go down to Honduras and visit the
Aladino,
factory, they do things the same way, which is all, complete vertical integration. But going through the process, watching all of the steps that are involved, I'll never complain about paying $10 for a cigar again. In
Well,
fact, I'm amazed I can make
Who
one
was it that
for
put out
$10.
the
you know?
300 hands cigar that was
That's right. I remember the
they
cigar.
had the series that was 300 hands because that's ostensibly the amount of hands
amount of
that
hands
have to
that
touch a
touched it,
cigar before it's actually sold to you.
Geez, I hope they wash those hands.
I was just thinking the same thing.
But yes, well, we're all, I guess, slightly more sensitized to that if we've turned on the news at any point, because
Right.
that's all they seem to be talking about. But who is there a single person that is responsible for all of the blends in the Oliva family, or have there been different people that blended different ones?
At different times, it's been different people. We were just bought by J. Cortez, which is a Belgium company, and it's been 3 years now. So we've had a lot of changes in our company, and that has just been a huge blessing for us because they put a lot of money into it. We just had the grand opening of our new factory in Nicaragua this last December, which we all got to go to as employees of Oliva. And it's just an absolute gorgeous factory.
Wow.
And we were able to get rid of our back orders. The whole time I've been with Oliva for over 7 years, and the whole time we've always had back orders on Melanio and V.
Yeah.
Now back orders are a thing of the past.
filled.
Nice.
We are up with our production.
You can feel that.
So yeah, along the way we've had different people. Most recently, Jose Oliva. He's stepped away as the owner. He's still doing consulting for us, but he had a big role in it. Gilberto Oliva had a big role in it. I mean, he's the one that started it. So
I'm a little amazed by that because I wasn't aware of the company being sold. And I've had in the past, there have been certain cigars that I've smoked a lot, and then all of a sudden I pick one up and it's different. And
Right.
I have not experienced that with the Oliva cigars at all.
And they remain very consistent.
And again, that's because we control every aspect of the operations, from fields to the factory to the consumer's hands.
Well, and it does go to show you that, and this is something in craft beer too, being bought by one of the big companies doesn't necessarily make the beer not good anymore, but it can have an impact if they change where it's
Change
brewed.
the flavor, the formula,
Right. What,
any of the
tell
processes.
you can't put as much grapefruit in it, whatever the whatever the thing might be.
You're still charged about that one.
That was one of my honestly, that was my favorite beer in Carbach's entire line was the Big and Bright, and it's still good, but
It's
it's
just not as
as
big.
good as it used to be. It's not as big and it's not as bright, and that's because allegedly they were told they didn't need to use quite so much grapefruit. So
Change the flavor.
yeah, change the flavor is not necessarily a good idea unless you're doing it in a way that's going to improve it.
Speaking of flavor, you handed me this this Feisty blonde ale here.
the honey vanilla blonde, I
Honey
believe.
vanilla blonde, and it's got a can art. It's a chick on there. Looks like the Almost Famous chick, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of does, actually.
Right?
It sure does.
I'll take that up there in just a second. But
Now,
but before
have we had a hop fusion beer on the show before?
think so.
I don't believe we have. I'm familiar with the brewery in Fort Worth, but I don't believe we've had their beer on before, so I'm excited about tasting a little
I like
hop
right
fusion.
here they say also right on the can they say where did I see it? Where did I see it? Brewed and packaged at Hop Fusion. Tap room open 6 days a week, right there on the can.
Nice.
You gotta love that.
What's the percentage on that?
This is gonna be a 8.2.
Yeah,
Ooh,
no,
yeah.
this is interesting because we're kind of breaking a cardinal rule of the show because the sour that we're going to have second, I think, is actually a little less than the 8.2. So we usually start with something lighter, but in this case, the honey vanilla blonde will weigh in at an 8.2. So this
But
should be
yeah, it's
interesting.
also a sour. It's also a sour, so even if it's a little less on the alcohol, it's going to have
It's still going to have some kick to it.
a much bigger flavor profile. I'm going to walk up here with this
Wow.
can so we can see it.
Ian, I don't get a lot on the nose, but boy, the first sip of this is. I don't know if I've ever had a beer that had this much honey flavor to it. It is super, and in a really good way too. Very
kinda silky on
very
the
sweet
palate.
and silky. Yes, absolutely. I'm interested to see you taste this, Ian, and thank you for displaying the can.
Yeah, I haven't tried that yet, but that's big words to say because right here in town we got Spindle Tap, and they make that honey
They make
hole,
the
that
honey hole,
ESB,
which is wonderful.
which is huge honey
But
flavor.
this, I can almost taste the honeycomb in this.
There's a little honey on the nose.
Yeah,
a little honey and sweetness on the nose that you pick up, but it's not a big strong smelling beer right there.
There's.
Get that off of his collar there.
Oh, do I have?
Oh, geez.
A friendly bug. Thank you.
It's a mostly friendly bug. It's an inchworm.
Yeah. All right, that'll work.
Holy
He was just
cow.
inching his way. Yeah, what I tell you, This is about as honey as you can get. And you can definitely taste the vanilla in there as well.
They have bees working for them.
But it really does. You really think of, the honey that you can buy, local honey, that has the honeycomb, a piece of honeycomb in the jar. That's what it reminds me of, is that
real natural
that
flavor.
real supernatural honey flavor. It's not just like a honey sweet. It's like a honey.
Right. This is really interesting too, and it's also really malty, as weird as that may be with the color.
Right.
Like it's honey and malt in a beautiful blend.
I'm interested to know what it is about this, because most blonde ales are going to come in around 5%. I'm interested to know what about this cranked the ABV up to 8.6 or whatever it is.
I'm going to kind of assume just that they obviously, I think, probably put some honey in before it fermented, because the added sugar is going to add alcohol, because that's what turns into the alcohol. That's what the yeast eats and expresses as alcohol. So I can only assume that's where the honey came in and bumped that up from, because most blonde ales are what, 5-6%?
Yeah, usually around 5, 5.5.
Yeah. They're very specific about that.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I got to tell you, this is probably my favorite blonde ale I've ever had.
It's really good.
It's really, really delicious.
It says this bronze golden ale combines deeply aromatic orange blossom honey with a touch of pure Mexican vanilla. Oh, that vanilla is the other thing that's in there. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. The honey's so big. And raw piloncillo, something like that, to round out its smooth finish. Brewed with 4 grains, 2 varieties of hops for balance, but unpasteurized, unfiltered, the natural essence of the citrus blossom to shine. This is delicious.
As far as the cigar, I don't know that there's a huge complementary effect, but it certainly doesn't get in the way of the
no, they don't seem to have any fight with each other at all.
Yeah, they're complementary.
And we're smoking 3 different cigars, so
that's
we
true.
Get any of that?
Yeah, it's great with mine.
Yeah, yours is going to be a lot more mild. Yours is going to be a little bit more warm and spicy, as is mine.
And the spice, it seems to work just fine with it. Again, it's not one of those things where I'd go, wow, this is a pairing. We got to try this all the time. But it's certainly
nothing to complain
about. Nothing to complain about. And I will tell you that, again, with me being the IPA fans, anytime I find a beer that works with a cigar, I'm excited, because many of my favorite IPAs just don't work.
It's really interesting. If you take a sip and then and you let it sit for a second, and then do a retrohale, you start picking up this really warm citrusy thing.
Yes.
Almost maybe a lemon or like that.
Yes.
And it's in the background. There's no bitterness to it at all. Like, this has almost no bitterness on the finish.
It's a wonderful thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Really a wonderful thing. Well, I like it, and not to move us along too rapidly, but so we can try to keep our segments from getting too long, Ian, let's jump right into a little whiskey. This is Slane.
Wants to stay sober?
We've had it on the show before, but I thought perfect time to revisit it because of St. Patrick's Day is next week, and there's no reason to only drink Irish whiskey on St. Patrick's Day, that's for sure. But it's a good time to be reminded of it and how wonderful it can be. And
I'm going to pour a little short on these because we got a bunch of whiskey to try.
Yes, we do.
I hope you don't mind.
Yes, we do.
I'm not trying to be stingy. I just know we got a bit to go.
Yes, sir.
By the way, I washed my hands.
And that's good to know.
I sang happy birthday twice.
Oh, is that what they're saying now? Sing happy birthday twice?
Yes.
While you're washing
and
your
use
hands.
soap.
And use soap.
Oh, yes. Don't forget the soap.
I mean, it's sad we have to teach people how to wash their hands.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've gotten a good laugh out of some of the I guess you shouldn't laugh in the serious situation, but I've gotten a good laugh out of some of the emails that are flying around about here's what to do. It's I have not seen the sing happy birthday twice while you wash your hands email, though. That's good.
Sing happy birthday twice. Use soap.
Wow.
Yes. Also, you probably shouldn't sing like happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. You should probably sing it at a more normal pace.
But should you add and many more at the end?
I was thinking that same thing. I think you should.
Okay.
I mean,
probably after the second one.
Yeah. Okay.
You can't wash them too much.
That's right. Yeah, you can't overwash. Ian, talk to me about Slane.
Slane's delicious. It's interesting because I think after that beer, there's some orange notes in here that I've never noticed before.
Oh, you may be right about that. I'm picking up a little of that as well.
Like fruity notes that I don't know that I've. really noticed in the Slane before. They say it's a blended triple cask finish.
It's incredibly
virgin
smooth.
seasoned sherry. Okay, so it was a virgin barrel, then so you get the oakiness from the virgin barrel. You get the seasoned barrel.
Sherry,
gives it some of the color and some of the more fruity, probably vanilla things, and then the sherry cask, of course, is its own thing. That's that sweetness that you get all the way across there.
Of all of the whiskeys that we've tried on the show, this and Buffalo Trace are the ones that I say really no bar should probably be without these, because they're inexpensive, they're go-to delicious, and they're not going to it's something that if you finish a bottle every once in a while, you don't go, oh boy, now I got to go replace that. You know what I mean? It's not going to be that expensive.
What is the price point on this?
I want to say this is about $28.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a very. It's slightly more expensive than Jameson, but not by much.
Right, and I think again
You're
going to
have a lot of
special
people out
Jameson
there
in.
who are Jameson fanatics. Jameson as a whiskey, as a brand, has a very fanatical following. I think much like. Some people just love the brand itself, like Budweiser has that, with their Clydesdales and their whole image. And then who else has it? Jack Daniels has that. Jack Daniels branding is brilliant, by the way.
Absolutely.
I think Jack Daniels stuff is cool, and I don't really like their Jack Daniels whiskey all that much.
But their branding
stuff is really good.
But their branding, their
branding
look, their advertising.
So
is
they're
fantastic.
gonna Slane, I think, is gonna be fighting at, or someone who goes, this is a great one to pass on to someone who goes, man, I don't really like Irish whiskey. No, seriously, try this because it's different and it's not that expensive. This is a great one to have on the shelf. Drink it like this and mix it even.
I know Adam's brother Aaron. I think this is one of his absolute favorites. He just absolutely loves
this. This is readily available.
Yeah, oh yeah,
yeah. Not hard to find.
I've never
at
seen
least
a shortage of
at
it,
least here in Houston, we've had no problem finding it. And show the bottle and then we'll take a quick break and be back with our next segment. You are pretty good at the whole Mr. Twirligig effect when we're on location. You know that? That just totally works. All right, I tell you what we do. I think we're going to order some Powers from the bar here at BB Lemon. We'll sample that in our next segment, and we'll also do a little more beer. How about a sour ale? Now, sour should be really interesting in this whiskey and cigar thing. It should be a little odd, but that's what we'll do next. So it's Smoking and Toasting. We are live at BB Lemon in Houston with Trenton Smith from Oliva Cigars, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. It's show number 177 of the world-famous Smoking and Toasting.
Hi, Mom.
Trenton, we decided we couldn't say the show was world-famous until something happened that I didn't know if it would ever happen, and that is that my mom learned of the show's existence.
Oh, boy.
And my mom, who doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, once she became aware of it, she's not let's just say she's not a consumer of media. So once she became aware of it, I'm like, that's it. We can say we're world famous now. So,
but
by the way,
you have to watch what you say too.
And my mom has never been less happy with me. But it happens. So, hi, Mom. So welcome to show number 177. We are brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant, 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. Right across the street from BB's Houston location is another of their establishments.
I'm waving at them over there.
And hi, Jeremiah. It's called BB Lemon, and it's a wonderful little bar. They have great food. And it's just a cool hangout place. Their cocktails are exceptional, and they're going to be bringing us some Irish whiskey here in just a moment that they've got behind the bar here at
pretty
BB
excited
Lemon.
about that.
Yeah, so very exciting. Very
Powers.
exciting. So, by the way, tonight, Smoking and Toasting will be in attendance at the Great Houstonian Smokeout. For any of those of you who are in the Houston area, you are welcome to come out because it starts at 6:30 at Batanga Restaurant.
And that's downtown, right?
It's downtown. You can get details and information at batangahouston.com. That's spelled just like it sounds. BATANGA Houston.com. Starts at 6:30 tonight. And our friends at Stogie's are providing the first cigar.
That's pretty sweet.
Yes. And rum flights from Flor de Caña. I love Florida
Man,
Cognac.
when they were on the show, what was it, 2 months ago?
Yes.
Oh, man, that was so awesome.
Yeah, and you took home, as I recall, a really wonderful
The 25.
half bottle of
Yes,
25
yes.
from that show. So,
I would say it's a quarter bottle.
yeah.
That means it was a good show.
That means it's a good show. Well, it may have been a half bottle when he took it
No,
home.
it was a half bottle when I took it home, but now that's what I call a quarter bottle. Come on in.
Thanks so much for bringing those over. These are Powers, and do you know specifics on the Powers? Is there any way you could bring the bottle out and let us look at it? Okay, perfect.
Awesome.
That'll help us out. So one of those is for Adam, and then one for Ian and myself. Now, this is an Irish whiskey that I'm going to be honest, Ian, I'm not real familiar with. Do you know anything about?
I've
Powers?
had it, but I don't know that much about it.
Right.
To be honest with you, I've had it before, and I can't remember anything about it because it's probably after I had a bunch of other whiskeys.
Whiskeys of various designations. Well,
it smells really nice.
yeah, it really has a great nose to it. It's a
It's got that kind of Irish whiskey,
like a minerality to it.
There's kind of that earthy smell to it that you get. You don't get that with whiskeys. It's a very earthy kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's almost a green or youngish kind of smell, but not in a bad way by any means. If that makes sense, you know.
It's I think I just turned into Ray Donovan when I took a sip. That's really, really good. Of course, I don't know if that's the whiskey he drinks or not. Oh, thank you so much. So let's show that to the camera, Ian, and then maybe you can take a look and tell us something. I see that it's triple distilled, and thanks to the folks here at BB Lemon for.
Whiskey superior quality with distinctive pot still, spicy and honey flavored, triple distilled and matured and specially selected.
Okay, so.
They're probably not hearing me.
Yeah, they're probably not hearing you because your mic's back here. But this looks like it's triple distilled, and you mentioned honey.
Yeah,
I'm definitely picking up on that.
Let me get my mic on this so I can. So you say,
Definitely picking up on that
Right
in the
off
flavor.
right off the front of the bottle, it says, "Whiskey of superior quality with its distinctive pot still, spicy honey flavor, triple distilled and matured and specially selected American oak casks for richness and complexity." And then the back of the bottle says, "Powers Gold Label tasting notes: nose, cinnamon, clove oil, white pepper in balance with russet apple." I definitely pick up the apples
Yes.
on there. Ripe pears on a background of charred oak, definitely the charred oak as well. Taste cinnamon, green peppers, a touch of nutmeg combined with orchard fruits, vanilla and toasted oak, all laid upon a crisp barley core finish. Long pot still oils and spices slowly fade to rich barley and toasted wood.
That's a very long description
That
for a
is.
bottle of whiskey. Yeah.
Yeah, they talk about it a lot. You know what, though? I got to tell you, compared to most Irish whiskeys that I have, this is incredibly smooth.
Yes.
Like if you go, like Jameson's, but it's a little, like the bite or the heat is a little much. This is incredibly smooth. This goes down like so easy.
Well, it's got a definite. You mentioned oil a couple of times when you were reading.
Yeah.
It's got a definite oiliness to the mouthfeel that was not evident in the Slane.
But it's also not a heavy mouthfeel. The fruits in this come out huge. This is a fruity Irish whiskey, easily a fruity Irish whiskey.
You're absolutely right. You were going to say
Doesn't every Irish whiskey have to be triple distilled?
I believe that is correct. Ian, does that
You're
ring
above my
true to
pay
you?
grade now.
See,
I
if
think I
only-
recall that to
if
be an Irish
only-
whiskey, it has to be triple distilled.
If only Jeremiah were here, he could tell us
He would
that
tell
not
us
only does it have to
all
be
about
triple
it.
distilled, but it has to be only built on a building site that contains a particular mineral in the earth, and the kind of stuff he
And the
knows about
story
whiskey.
behind it and everything else.
Now we do have another friend of the show, Chris Hart from Whiskey Neat, who has been.
Nobody cares about that guy.
Yeah, but
Chris
at the
who?
same time, he has been certified now as a whiskey expert because we read that in Texas Monthly. So we'll have to ask him.
I know we tease him about that, but kudos to him. That's pretty
such a big
awesome.
deal.
I love Texas Monthly, by the
If-
way. What a
if-
great magazine.
If Texas Monthly called me an expert about anything, I'd tell everyone. Yeah, it's-
Especially your mom.
Yeah,
Now she's
especially
listening.
my mom. Mom, I'm a whiskey expert.
I mean, they do.
She'd love it. She'd be so excited.
If you ever travel down to Texas and you want to kind of see what's going on or what you should go see, Texas Monthly is a great magazine to go to because they'll have lists. Thank you so much. They'll have lists of what's going on. They'll also have they have special issues where they have the best barbecue restaurants,
Yes.
the best burgers in Texas.
Yes.
It's a pretty cool magazine.
I love that she came and picked up the bottle, by the way. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but I'm sure she was wondering if we were going to continue to
Help
pour
ourselves.
Make yourself at home.
Because it's not like on TV. That's one of the things I love in TV and movies is when the guy, sits up at the bar and they pour him a drink and then they leave the bottle for him to continue to pour for himself. That doesn't happen.
Have you guys watched the series Hell on Wheels?
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Okay.
I know of it, but I
have
seen
to
it.
drink whiskey while I'm watching it because there's so much whiskey involved. And in the old days, it's building the railroad.
Yeah.
And in the saloons, I'll take a bottle of whiskey, and they come and set the bottle of whiskey right there, and then they just start pouring it.
Leave the bottle.
See, that's the way I am.
Yeah, they used to just measure the bottle, right, and then charge you accordingly.
Yes, that's right.
So, Wiki Brian popped in here. Triple distilled! ! Is that like triple hopped? So, apparently, yes, triple distilled is what it has to be for Irish
in order to
whiskey.
be an Irish whiskey. Yeah.
And like triple hopping beer. Was it Miller Lite that advertised that they were triple hopped, like every other?
I think it
beer
might
ever?
have been. Yeah.
Ever?
Right. Yeah. Right. Triple hop.
He also
more flavor.
points out Irish whiskeys are distilled 3 times compared to twice for most whiskey.
Okay. Well, and that may be responsible for some of the smoothness. Although, as you mentioned, like regular Jameson's has got a little kick to it.
It's got okay.
Yeah.
It's good though. I mean, like it's.
But this Powers is incredibly
it's super smooth. Yeah,
Yeah.
super smooth. Like this is
Almost
so
too
easy.
smooth.
So easy to drink. It's like.
Reminds me of the Skelly, the tequila. It's so easy to drink that it's you
almost
almost
a little
dangerous.
scary,
Yeah, you almost wish it weren't quite so easy to drink. This reminds me of that a little. Great
This has such
flavor profile.
The oil in here gives us such a buttery, wonderful mouthfeel to it as well. It's not a heavy. It's not like a real, like sticky or overpowering, but it's really really nice how it coats the palate and then leaves that nice aftertaste, especially on the retro ale.
Trenton, one of the things we do here on the show is that we do really high-tech sound effects. So, for example, if we want the sound effect of a bottle opening, what we do is Ian takes an opener and actually opens a bottle. So
really sophisticated.
Yeah, we're like that. That was pretty good, actually. For being on location, the bounce was good.
I was at an account the other day, and I kept hearing this bottle opener.
Yeah.
And it was his ringtone. When you even get a text, I'm like, what is that noise?
That is
text.
awesome.
Yeah.
I need that ringtone desperately. So while Ian's pouring the sour, let me ask you another Oliva question. The company is now, as you said, vertically integrated.
Always has been.
Always has been. Okay. Yeah. Is there more than one location where you guys grow tobacco, or is it one farm?
Yeah, actually, this trip that we went to in December, we got to go to the Condega farm, and it is just absolutely beautiful. We had a mountaintop view of it, and they were some of the plants were already growing. They were planting some. We got to visit the greenhouse, which it's just such a meticulous process.
Yeah.
Putting seeds into a little cup, and then I mean, it's just so much work.
One of the things that we found when we visited the tobacco farm in Honduras is that they would give us cigars, and then they would have one of their blenders come around, and they would take a different leaf, so maybe it's a Connecticut cigar, and then they'd take like a Corojo leaf, and he would come and wrap it around.
And
the
it totally
cigar,
changes the flavor.
And we would get to experience how that completely changed.
Yeah, it was cool because
the
he
flavor of
wrapped
the
it a
cigar.
little below the burn point, so that within the next couple minutes you were tasting your cigar like normal, and then all of a sudden you taste that change.
Right, as it hit the new burn point of the new leaf. Yeah.
Now, speaking of different tobaccos from different regions, one of the things that makes the Oliva V very special is the Ligero from the Jalapa Valley.
Right.
That's Ligero is the very top part of the tobacco plant. It's the oldest part of the tobacco plant, and we use a lot of the Ligero from Jalapa Valley in the Serie V,
which gives it a little more kick.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then moving on to the Melanio, we still use that Ligero, but we age it an additional 3 years.
So it mellows it out a little bit.
It mellows
doesn't
it out, and it's more in the medium range.
Yeah. This Lancero is got such a wonderful tang on the tongue. It's just got, and it's that Ligero tobacco, isn't it? This is what I'm getting. It's really good.
And that's
really
what makes
good.
the difference between being a little spicy and just being in the medium range.
Right. Now, I know this is a question I probably shouldn't ask, but
boy.
do you have a favorite in your lineup?
Master blend.
Master blend.
Love the
Yeah.
master blend.
Yeah.
Melanio, you can't go wrong with. And so much of it just depends on when I'm smoking, who I'm smoking with, how much I've been smoking lately. But yeah, I mean, I've got my go-tos.
I've noticed that there are a few of the online places where you can buy cigars that you guys have done like a house blend for them.
We do a lot of house blends,
and
once a week probably.
And by the way, I've had several of them. They've been right up to the quality that you would expect from Oliva. What? How does that process work? Do they? If let's say I'm a cigar store or an online outlet, and I want to do a house blend, and you guys agree to do it, do I get involved in the blending at all? Do you send me samples and
we just
say
have,
what I like?
We have so many different processes for that. It's kind of a build your own,
right?
And each case is very specific to that individual
so you
case.
kind of be as hands-on as you want to be in it.
Correct. I mean,
right?
we've got parameters, and every week I hear of a new brand or something. Somebody shows me a picture, I go, yeah, it's probably an exclusive online thing.
But as many of those as there are out there, your own core line is really only a handful of different expressions.
Yeah, one of the things I did want to mention is we also make nub and cane.
I was
Right.
going to ask what the relationship is, because nub by Oliva is what you always see on those. And I love the nub Maduros, especially when I find them in a tubo, because that's my go-to. If I just can toss a cigar in my pocket, because I might get a chance to smoke a cigar,
Yeah.
because the tubo protects it. And that's just a great cigar. Small, but smokes a long time.
Yeah, Oliva started kind of a launch pad for new brands, and it was called Studio Tobacco, and that's where nub was created, that's where cane was created, and they had a
Canes are
whole
great too, yeah.
we had a
Yes.
whole tour for that, and those cigars still exist. Nub is considered, it's a short fat cigar, it's considered the sweet spot of the cigar.
Right.
So
And one of the things we're always most amazed about nubs is they're this little cigar. I mean, they're big in ring gauge, but small.
Yeah,
in,
it's a 5-inch
in
cigar,
size.
right?
And yet,
4-inch cigar.
it's a 4-inch cigar, and yet sometimes it'll take just as long to smoke as
Yeah.
a much longer cigar.
it's a 60 ring gauge cigar.
Yeah. So it's
Now the other thing with nub, since it's a short fat cigar, the bigger the ring gauge, the cooler it's going to burn. So on sometimes a shorter cigar, you may get some heat to it,
Yep.
which will activate some of the spices in it.
Yep.
And nub burns cool the entire cigar.
I'll just mention this. Since you guys came out with nub, a lot of other cigar companies have
Do that,
come out
yeah.
with a similar product, but none of them have done it as well as nub. Nub, to me, is still the best of all of those that I have tried.
Yeah, and that's by purpose. It was invented as a launch pad for new brands, and it's just succeeded, and it's still in our portfolio.
Also, that I love that ad where it's sitting on its ash and it's burned almost down
almost all the way up.
to
Yeah.
the label, and it's just sitting on its ash.
that was a whole ad campaign. Can you smoke it in one ash?
nice.
Nice.
So
Nice.
now you have all these guys smoking in cigar shops, like laying on their back trying to smoke a cigar.
I will guarantee you, by the way, that Ian will get it on his shirt if he tries
I
it.
will at some point in time. Like I always. Maybe I talk too much with my hands. I don't know.
Maybe.
But I will warn you before you try that.
I've seen
Cruz,
that you've done a little research.
Before you try that, Cruz, make sure you take a sip of water or something. Okay.
Something as a palate cleanser?
Yes, as a palate cleanser, because right next to the cigar, this beer and this cigar fight each other in the worst way.
Okay, that's good to know.
They're both very good, but they don't go together. Like, wow. And that's the nature of a sour, you know.
right.
Just-
Sours are tough to
they're,
pair.
they're tough to pair with a
Wow.
cigar, that's for
This
sure.
is like a sour pear is what I'm getting.
Right. And so if you were to do a cigar with this, you want something on the much lighter side.
Right, so it wouldn't fight it.
Yeah, something with a Connecticut, and definitely on the more mild side of mild to medium.
And Oliva has the perfect cigar, Connecticut Reserve.
Yeah.
Connecticut Reserve, yeah. While we're sampling, by the way, this is really good.
So this is the Little Fish Passionista sour barrel aged with passion barrel aged sour ale with passion fruit.
So you can definitely pick up on the barrel aging.
Yes, it's 5.5%, so it's not real huge. You'll see blend of barrel aged sour wheat ales was fermented over 1.5 pounds of passion fruit puree per gallon. The brightness and intensity of fruit really shine on this one. We recommend not aging it for too long, maybe a year at most, to get the most vivid fruit character. It will still taste great later, but the passion fruit will diminish somewhat. Passion fruit is clearly not a local fruit for us, but as with all of our beers, Passionista starts with a base of our Ohio-grown grains, malted by our good friends over at House Malts in Cleveland, Ohio. Cheers, Sean and Jimmy.
Well, I will tell you this. I said pear, and now that I've had a few more sips, I can definitely taste the passion fruit, but that was still my first impression was pear.
Yeah.
And those are two very different fruits, so it's interesting. Passion fruit a lot sweeter than pear, but
There's and because it's sour, you get a lot of that skin
yes,
of the pear kind of flavor going on. It's a very good beer. I'll put this one up to the camera real quick.
While you do that, I'll say I did take a sip and then went back to the cigar, and it was not as jarring as you might have thought. It actually wasn't bad at all. So, yeah, it's interesting. They're not made to go together, but it's not. If I had a glass of this, sitting outside at the BB Lemon, I wouldn't stop smoking the cigar I was smoking.
Oh, you notice I didn't ditch the cigar or the beer, right?
I think that's right. Okay, so wow, what a segment! Powers, and then this sour, and still working on the cigar. Now for the next segment, I'm going to go for another cigar, and I'm going to have a very difficult decision to make here between the Master Blend, which is one of my all-time favorites, and the Melanio Perfecto, because, well, I'll think about it during the break, and we'll be right back. Smoking and Toasting show number 177, live at BB Lemon. We'll be right back. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Oh, nicely done, my friend. Nicely done. When you create your own sound effects, it's not just like punching a button or dropping a file in. You take great pride in each and every one of them.
That's
and if
right.
they don't turn out the way you wanted, you're like, all right, I'm going to do better next time.
Take two.
Yeah.
Well, one of the nice things about having to make sound effects, especially the sound of a cork opening a whiskey bottle, is you actually have to have the props on hand.
Right. You have to have the bottle with a cork.
Right. And you don't want it to be the exact same sound effect every time, because that would be inauthentic. So you have to have a different bottle every time.
I like where you're going with this.
I just try to do what makes sense for us.
I think there's a reason
and
that
keeping
we're
our quality up.
I think there's a reason that we're friends. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting show number 177, halfway to 200. We are brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant, 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and the shop right across the street from it. I call it a shop. That's industry talk. The wonderful restaurant and bar across the street called BB Lemon.
Now,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, we are at BB Lemon.
Yes.
Right across the street from us is actually the butcher shop.
That's
now.
right. That's right.
Keep in mind that B&B is actually a butcher shop.
Yes.
Like, you can walk in there and buy steaks to take home and put on your grill, and they're going to be amazing and better than anything you can do at home, unless you just happen to, I don't know, have a room where you dry age steaks
can dry
at
age
your house.
steaks for like months and years at a time.
And I'm sure somebody does. Somebody's that enthusiastic about steaks. But
anything you look at like that's a hobby like this, you'll find someone who is more enthusiastic even than you.
Also, I want
mean?
to thank Trenton, man. These Oliva double cutters here are so nice.
Yeah,
nice, heavy duty. You can feel a quality in them. Awesome.
Yeah.
Just last year, we revamped our event swag, so we have a lot of new stuff.
A lot of new stuff.
Yeah.
Well,
just
you
for new
showed
events.
us something that you said is coming, and you have like a prototype of it, and that's this Oliva pin here. And maybe Ian, you can go show that to
Let
the
me take
camera
that up there.
because this is one of the coolest swag items I've ever seen. Because
Just
not
don't
only,
take it on a plane.
Not only is it a pin, right? Not only is it a pin, but at the top. Oh no!
Turn
the
the
pin
silver part.
There you go. So there's the pen, and then its dual purpose is it's a lighter. That's so awesome. Oh, must acquire one of these when they come out. That's
Next time
great.
I see you,
Next time.
you're gonna be like, "Why are you filling me up?" I was like, "I want to."
I just got that in my shipment of samples this last week,
That's
so
so
that's going to be
great.
new for events.
That's so great. So when you're doing Oliva events, what kind of feedback? I mean, obviously there are fans of the brand. We know that, but what kind of feedback do you get from people? And is that something that you actually are able to communicate to the bosses and
Absolutely.
the blenders?
Yeah, we have a very good line of communication. If there's an issue, we'll report that. The number one thing I hear is, man, this is such a consistent cigar.
You're
and that
really
is,
right
that
about
is
that.
what Oliva has been prided on for ever since its beginning.
Consistent, and again, consistent without being overly pricey, which is, I think, a real testament. And I think one of the reasons that as cigar companies go, you've got so many fans, because it's easy to go, I'm not picking on Padron. They make great cigars, but it's easy to be excited about their expensive Anniversario cigars, but I can't smoke one of those every day.
Right.
So and Oliva, I can keep my humidor stocked with them. I can have one whenever I want. The price is reasonable, and the quality and the consistency have just been fantastic. Really, from the first time I ever smoked one, and that's really impressive.
And like we were talking earlier, 300 hands. I mean, so many people are involved in the making of a cigar, and it would be really easy to kind of lose some of the quality if you don't just have steps in place for every step of the way. We have a process just to make sure it's made well.
And I can think of so many other brands, Gurkha, Camacho. Both of those brands, I think, are back to making good cigars, but both of them went through some real struggles with the quality not being as consistent. And I can just see how easy it would be for that to happen. And again, the vertical integration, I'm sure, is the big reason for it. But you guys have remained so consistent for so long, and that's really something to be celebrated.
And we really went through a tough time when we got #1 in Cigar Aficionado.
Right.
And everybody was calling and placing 100-box orders, and we did go on back order for a bit, but like I said earlier, with the new factory, the new box factory, we are totally caught up.
Now, our buddy Alan Denny, who nobody cares about, he is, a great friend of the show. He worked for a while for EP Carrillo, and while he was there, they got #1 cigar of the year. And he's told us about how it just changed everything. Like, from their being able to keep it in stock places to it driving the success of other things. But, I mean, Cigar Aficionado, there's things about them I love, there's things about them I don't love, but they really do have an impact on sales in this industry, don't they?
Yeah, it's a lot like Wine Spectator with the same format where you get a high rating and then all of a sudden everybody wants it.
Right. And kudos to you guys for not, immediately yanking up your prices when you got a #1 listing.
Well, we have had a few price increases, but with the FDA getting involved, and now we're going to have a little bit more. UPS almost stopped shipping tobacco products.
Right.
Now they went to where you have to have a signature, and now there's an added fee involved with that. So, just doing business is getting more expensive.
Let me ask you about new brand, new things within the brand, new lines within the brand. Obviously, with some of the new FDA regulations making that stuff a lot harder to introduce. I know a lot of tobacco companies release things in a limited way so they would have something on the market that they could then do a wide release on later because it would come out before. Right, the Ghost Blends. Did you guys do anything like that? And are there any plans to release any new blends?
I have not heard of any plans to release anything new. Gilberto was our newest, and that was about 3 years ago. Like I said, we just got caught up on production, so we're trying to let that ride and just go with the brands that we have. A lot of times when you do a line extension, sometimes they get lost.
And sometimes it hurts your core
Absolutely.
line. It comes at your own expense.
Absolutely. They'll switch from something that they're currently smoking to try that, and then they'll like it and then go away from that brand.
Right. So but it's all interesting. I mean, what we're seeing in craft beer is it's all about what's new.
Yep.
And the established brands, the Sam Adams and the Sierra Nevadas, have real challenges to keep their core lines relevant during the time when everybody's trying something new.
Right.
So I can see a bit of that in the cigar industry as well, but I think that may slow down now that the legislation is in place, and that makes, again, what you guys have done with consistency so critical and so important. So, Ian, I think you've already done some sampling of the Tullamore Dew single malt, have you not?
Tullamore Dew single malt drinks like a really fine scotch.
Mm-hmm.
Like it really does. The heat is a warm whiskey hug that comes back after the fact. And it's such a clean and delicious upfront, super smooth malty flavor going on this. It's really, I think, an outstanding example of an Irish whiskey. If you want something special, and this is matured for at least 14 years in a traditional oak cask, is what it says right on here. This is 4-cask Old Bourbon, Oloroso, Sherry, Port, and Madeira, bottled at 41.3. So ever so slightly overproof, but not enough to really make that much difference.
And by the way, works wonderfully with the Milano. Wonderful pairing.
Works great with the Series V as well.
Yeah.
Got a nice ash on that Lancero.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to fall on me.
That ash is, if that ash could think, right now it's thinking, man, I love that shirt he's wearing.
I know.
I think he just dropped
Just
it.
dropped.
Ian, is there a sense from what you perceive that Irish whiskey is not taken as seriously because it's not Scotch?
I think because
It's not American bourbon.
Irish whiskey most of the time is a blended whiskey anyway, and I think blended whiskey gets a bad rap because of some of the major brand blended whiskeys that you get, or blended scotches and things like that you get that are just kind of subpar or really, really ho-hum. But I think the Irish whiskey in general also, and I can't remember what it is. Brian's going to have to get me up to date on this, but there's something about Irish whiskey and how they make it that a part of it has to be, I think,
triple distilled. We know that one.
not matured the same way. I can't remember exactly what it is. I'd have to look it up, but there's a distinct flavor you get with Irish whiskey that that you don't get with other ones, and it's a very earthy. And I want to use the word raw because there's a rawness to it, but it's not in a bad way, and it's not in an unsmooth way. It's just a little more of an earthy flavor that you get in even a super fine one like this 14-year-old. Like that Powers was smooth. This takes smooth to the next level.
Right.
You know, but I think this is the 14-year-old, which is going to put it at a higher range than the standard Powers.
And to add on to that, not just Irish whiskeys, but I think blended whiskeys get kind of a bad rap sometimes. If you go into cigar terms, every cigar is a blended cigar.
Right.
We use different tobaccos from
a
different.
blend is not considered a bad thing
Correct.
in the cigar world, but for some reason in the whiskey world, it can be
there's
looked
some
at
really
as
great blended
Oh,
whiskeys.
People
God,
love to
yes.
throw around the term single malt. This is an Irish single malt right here. I think that people don't understand what single malt really actually means. That's telling you two things about a whiskey. That's a statement about the whiskey telling you that it was made at one single distillery.
Right.
Meaning it wasn't blended from other distilleries.
And that can
the
be a
malt
good thing,
is the
but-
main profile on it.
Right.
That's what it's telling you. When you say single malt, it's not saying that it's super special. It just means it's coming from one distillery, and malt is the
is
basis.
the primary base.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you, this single malt is as good as something in the same age range from Scotland that I can think
easily.
of. And I'm going to tell you this: it's a little less expensive.
Well, I think also that Irish whiskey in general, I think the taste of Irish whiskey is considered not as sophisticated as well.
Right.
You know, like
kinda
we're all
dig it.
familiar with Jameson's. It's so ubiquitous that we all had Jameson. I personally think Jameson's is delicious. I can drink it on the rocks. I can drink it neat, and it's fine. It goes great with almost everything. I've never had it clash with a cigar.
Right.
And so when you get to higher levels of Irish whiskey than your basic Jameson's, even Jameson's higher end offerings, or some of their different offerings like their cask mates, which they've been hitting out of the park, I think that Irish whiskey is now people are starting to look at it and go, oh, this is actually something now, instead of, that's just Irish whiskey.
Right. I think the number one whiskey in the world this last year
was an Irish
whiskey,
yes.
and that has opened a lot of people's eyes to the
Right.
fact there's some good whiskey being made in Ireland. So,
The number one selling?
no, number one.
The number one rated.
Number one rated,
Okay.
yeah, by whichever of the whiskey magazines or websites does the rating. But it was a big deal at the time. It made a lot of news. All right, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a break. When we come back for our final segment, when we do, we have I think what could be the most interesting whiskey of the day. It's a Jameson, the Blender's Dog.
The Blender's
put
Dog.
together by head blender Billy Layton from from Jameson. This is part of a special series that the blenders and distillers did at Jameson's to create their own sort of like custom brand inside the Jameson brand. So we'll do that. We'll come back with a list from Delish.com of the top 10 Irish whiskeys for St. Patrick's Day. And you got is that an inchworm? Oh, there, yeah.
Back.
Yeah, he is back. He's looking for my collar again.
Right.
Plus, we'll be tasting a bourbon barrel-aged Imperial Stout from Hackensack, New Jersey.
Hackensack.
Hackensack. It's just fun to say. We'll be right back at Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. It's show number 177 of the world-famous Smoking and Toasting.
We're halfway to 200.
We are. We're brought to you by B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston, and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth, and of course by BB Lemon, which is where we are today. It's such a great vibe out here. I love this place.
I love the lemonade stand.
Yeah, that it really is cool. So just got a note from Jeremiah. He's not going to be able to make it to the show, so we're going to be enjoying all of our Irish whiskey without him. So sorry about that. We'll have him on a future show. In fact, I'm going to invite him to come to our whiskey blind taste test that's coming up.
Ooh, that's going to be fun.
It's coming up on the 19th, which actually is a week from today. And speaking of future shows, I thought I'd just go ahead and move into my calendar into August and tell you that the current plan, unless we wind up missing a show between now and then, which we don't usually do, is Smoking and Toasting number 200 will be August 27th, a Thursday. 1
Save the date, take Friday off.
Yeah, save the date, take Friday off. And if you are someone who's been on the show, Trenton, and anyone else who's been on the show, you will all be invited to participate in show number 200. You just have to bring, something that you want to talk about. That's the only requirement. So, but you'll be sampling everybody else's stuff, and it'll be pandemonium. It's a pretty cool thing.
Pandemonium.
Pandemonium.
I love that word.
So, Ian, we are now working into our final segment. We've got a little more whiskey to taste. We've got a really interesting Imperial Stout. Which way you want to go first, my friend?
Decisions.
Man, yeah, that's a good thing. I think I want to go whiskey first, and then we'll pour the beer.
All right, sounds good. The whiskey is the Jameson's Blender's Dog, and you're going to have to. That one has not been opened, so you'll have to show that to the camera, Mr. Twirlygig in effect. Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned, Ian, you were talking about Jameson's. Thank you. And I have friends that's their brand. That brand has such a strong identification as a whiskey. You even mentioned being a Jameson's fan, did you not?
Absolutely. I used to be a Chivas ambassador, which is Pernod Ricard, and that's in the same portfolio.
Okay, so you are acquainted with.
I'm very loyal to Jameson.
To Jameson, okay, and I'm sure we're going to hear Jameson's name when we go through this list of whiskey. So while you're pouring, Ian, let me start with this list. This
Go
is
ahead.
from Delish.com, and they listed the 10 best recommended Irish whiskeys for St. Patrick's Day. And it is a good way. Again, you shouldn't just have Irish whiskey on St. Patrick's Day. I try to only have Irish whiskey on days that end in Y. That's my sort of ongoing.
St. Patrick's Day ends in Y too.
That's right. So it works, but it is a good day for Irish whiskey. Just like on Cinco de Mayo, you're probably going to want a cerveza from Mexico somewhere, or you're right. Right. Have a Corona or a margarita of some sort, or some really good tequila. Coming in at number 10 on the list from Delish.com of Irish whiskeys for St. Patrick's Day, Slane Irish Whiskey, the first one we had on the show
right
today.
there on the list.
Here's what they say about it. They say, if you want something authentic as hell, this is your best bet. Slane whiskey is made on the grounds of Slane Castle in Ireland, by the way, where you two recorded The Unforgettable Fire.
No.
It's remarkably smooth because it's aged in 3 different casks. It's hard to find better reviews for an Irish whiskey than this one has. They show the retail price at $34.99. I'm going to tell you, I think I bought it for about $28.
Yeah, I don't think it's that much here in Houston.
At number 9, Tullamore Dew Irish whiskey. Now, this is the regular Tullamore Dew
standard,
triple distilled. Yeah. If you want a surefire win, this whiskey is your best bet. The second largest selling brand of Irish whiskey in the world. and they say it's more gentle than some other Irish whiskeys, making it perfect for those who aren't usually comfortable.
You can
drinking
also
whiskey
buy
without
it
a
in the
mixer.
clay,
Yes.
in the clay pot that they sell it in, and that mellows it over time.
I didn't
as
realize
well, yeah.
that. So that mellows it over time.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. They're showing the traditional Tullamore Dew at a suggested retail price of $43.99. That again, I'm pretty sure you can get
I think
it
we can
cheaper
get a
than
little,
that.
a little cheaper than that.
At number 8, Writer's Tears. Writer's Tears, pot still Irish whiskey.
Never had
Saw
it.
a bottle of this when I went and bought the Jamesons, and did take a look at it. It wasn't what I ultimately went with. It says here, this one is also not your typical whiskey. It was a medal winner at the International Spirits Challenge in London and one of the highest-rated Irish whiskeys in Jim Murray's Whiskey Bible. The name is apt given Ireland's famous writers like James Joyce and Oscar Wilde, but as many have joked, this whiskey is a bit less bitter than actual writer's tears. So, well-written article here, by the way. All right.
Nice.
I'll go to number 7. This looks familiar. It's Power's Gold Label. If you're planning a wild St. Patrick's Day party, this should be your go-to spirit. It has a bite that will put a bit of hair on your chest, but is drinkable enough to enjoy casually with friends. If you're into a bit of spice, this one's for you. Just be sure to share. I didn't detect a whole lot of bite in that.
No,
Powers
man,
that-
I thought
that
it
we
was very
sampled.
smooth.
Very, very smooth. At number 6, the Redbreast 12-year.
That's a good one.
They say this whiskey's for those who have a very discerning palate. It's often described as complex and boasts notes of toasted wood and fruit. Its flavors will stay with you for a long time, so it's probably best served as an after-dinner drink versus something to take shots of while celebrating St. Patrick's Day.
You know, I don't.
But do your thing.
I don't really actually take shots.
Yeah.
When someone pours me a shot, I sip it.
See, I'm the same way.
You know, I don't.
You're
I
not in
don't
college
sip it.
anymore.
Yeah.
Unless it's really not that good, and then I'll throw it back to get it out of the way.
And move on.
And move on and hope for something better for the next round. So that's the bottom 5 of the top 10 list. We'll get to the rest in a moment. Ian, you've poured this Jameson's The Blender's Dog and had a moment to do a little research. So talk to me about this Irish whiskey.
I'm going to tell you what I think about this Irish whiskey. Holy cow, it's delicious.
Wow.
This does have a little bit of a bite right at the very end of the palate, and then that whiskey hug comes back. But it's so buttery smooth at the beginning, and it's got a little fruit and chocolate.
Yes, there is some chocolate
It's
there,
got
isn't
some
there?
chocolate going on in there that really it loves the cigar too.
Yes,
it
for
absolutely,
sure.
and it could be the cigar bringing out some of that as well, because I do have this cigar. This is the Serie V Lancero that I have, which is a little spicy.
Yep.
With some of those chocolate notes going on in it, or mocha notes going on deep in it as well. So
You were right. There is a butteriness at the beginning that is just lasts throughout the whole
my
experience.
favorite thing about this is, you know how they tell you, it's the water that makes the whiskey? Mm-hmm. You really can taste the water that goes into this.
Well, you're right.
That it's such a clean and refreshing taste happening at the same time as all the whiskey going on, and I'm absolutely loving that.
You know why God invented whiskey?
For me,
So the Irish wouldn't rule the world.
this is
That's what I've been told, and I'm part Irish, so I can go with that. I could tell that joke about the Scots, but I don't have any Scottish lineage. So now, in the politically correct world that we live in, you can only tell jokes about the ethnic group that you come from. That's the only thing that's acceptable.
yeah. So part of my lineage, I don't know if I can talk about aquavit very much.
Hey, listen, my two strongest ethnic lines are Irish and American Indian. So what that means is I love to drink, but I can't handle the firewater. That's that was inappropriate, by the way. But again, I have American Indian in me, so I can make those jokes, right? It
As
works.
far as I know.
I know there's a couple of gentlemen sitting a couple of tables over from us enjoying some cigars and whiskey, and it looks like they're having almost as good a time as we are. I wonder if we should offer them some of this Jameson's. I don't know. It's awfully good.
That's the neighborly thing to do.
It is the neighborly thing to do.
Unless you just want to take it home.
I'm going to take it home.
Any further thoughts on this, Ian?
Well, I feel like this particular bottle, this bottle is going to have an issue at the end of the show because it's going to evaporate
Yeah,
and then when you look at me and say,
evaporation
what is
a
that
whiskey
strange
problem.
lump you have?
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, well, I'm just happy. I don't know. It's certainly not your bottle of whiskey.
Is that a bottle of whiskey in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Don't listen,
No,
Mom.
this is outstanding. This has so many different things going on, and it's so incredibly smooth. Celebrating the passion of our craftsmen, the Whiskey Maker Series presents the Blender's Dog. I wanted to create harmony and complexity, and I got to say, he created a beautifully complex whiskey here. An infusion of creamy and spicy notes with butterscotch and a prickle of tannins. I named this whiskey after the dog, a tool I use to take samples right from the cask.
Nice.
So that's the Blender's Dog is the tool that they use.
See, and I thought he named it after his actual. I thought it was, naming it after.
You know, I think it's like a little thing on a little chain, and you drop it down in there, fill it up, and pull it up, and that way you can taste it from the bunghole on top of the cask.
It reminds me of that line from Indiana Jones where the guy laughs at him and he goes, "Oh, you were named after the dog." So this whiskey is not actually named after the dog; it's named after the tool that is used.
It
right?
says spirit, wood, and time perfectly balanced. I got to tell you, knocked it out of the park with this. This is outstanding. What was the price on this
say it's
bottle?
about $60. What do you think at that price point?
I think I have a seed in mine.
That may be a little thing from the tree above us.
Yeah, I'm going to drink it anyway.
Yeah. Oh, the whiskey will kill any coronavirus that
Builds
might
character.
exist in that seed. So, and plus, I know where you can get more if you wanted to.
Yes, and I'm about
pour
to.
some more. All right. So while you're doing that, let me do the rest of this list from Delish.com of Irish whiskeys, and then we will sample our final thing for the show, which is going to be this bottle.
You go on with the list, and I will
Imperial
open
Stout.
and pour the new bottle.
At number 5, Green Spot Irish whiskey. Ian, are you familiar with Green Spot?
Yes, we tried Green Spot at the New Potato.
Oh, we certainly did, and it was wonderful, as I recall.
Yes, we tried that
Yeah.
at the New Potato. That
That's
was one of the ones he
right.
was very proud to have over there. He's got a nice selection of Irish whiskey over there.
It says here that if you have Green Spot on your table, you'll likely find a few fans in your midst. This particular spirit's a fan favorite, beloved for its universal appeal but elevated taste. If you're a fan of flavors like vanilla, cinnamon, and cranberry, this is the whiskey for you. Hello, who's not a
Yeah. fan
of those flavors?
Right.
That's fantastic. At number 4, Connemara peated single malt Irish whiskey. Now I've seen peated Irish whiskeys. I don't know that I've ever actually had a peated.
I don't think
Irish.
I have either.
But I did see some of this on the shelf, and it comes in at about a $70 price point. It says this whiskey is truly unique. First off, it's the only Irish peated single malt whiskey widely available today. It's also a lighter color than you might be used to seeing, and it's a bit sweet. But once you take a swig, you'll also get a delicious smoky taste. Like we said, unique, but it all adds up to an absolutely delicious drink.
I like peat.
Connemara at number 4.
I like the flavor of peat. Peat's one of those things I got to be in a mood for. I have kind of a spot on my whiskey shelf that's all my whiskeys, and I really do enjoy it. But I haven't had a peated Irish whiskey, so it's very intriguing to me.
So, question for you: when you're at home and you're doing the whiskey sniff, the really organic whiskey sniff at home,
I call that
you-
tonight,
yeah,
tomorrow
right,
night.
Okay, yes, these are the kind of nights.
Let's
I'm
call it
thinking.
Monday night, Tuesday
Right,
night,
yeah.
Wednesday night.
Do you go to the peated whiskeys as well when you're doing the sniff?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
It depends on. It really depends on the cigar. If I have a cigar that has an unusual flavor, like what did I mention earlier? The like a Kentucky Fire Cured,
Right.
or something that's really a little bit out there, I'll almost always go to the peated whiskeys first.
Right.
And then also the peated whiskey for me is kind of a mood dependent thing, because what happens is, just like anything else, you might really like something, but you might not be in the mood for it all the time.
Right.
And so to me, that's almost like a little treat. So those whiskeys actually move pretty slow on my shelf, but man, when I'm in the mood for it, that's the thing that hits
That's where
the
you go,
spot.
yeah.
So there are certain cigars that I know go with it, but it's got to be a big cigar. It's got to be like an Edge or something really, really strong, like anything by LFD.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, as we move to number 3 on our list of whiskeys here from Delish.com, we move to the first one with a pretty hefty price tag, coming in at a retail price of $249.99, is the Bushmills 21-year single malt Irish whiskey. Now, I've had Bushmills. Have you had the Bushmills 21?
We had them on the show, but I don't think we had the 21.
I don't think we did. Says this is one that belongs in your bar cart or perhaps hidden somewhere special in your desk. Bushmills has a 400-year history of making delicious, high-quality Irish whiskey, and this is one of its finest creations. It takes 21 years for this bottle to make its way to your door, so what better way to celebrate Irish history than with a piece of that history?
Just so you know, when you have a bottle like that on your shelf, somewhere near you need to have the giant combat bottle of Jim Beam or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's for your buddies that come over and go, I'm going to mix it with Coke.
Yes.
You want them to look at that big...
No, that one.
You want them to look at the big bottle of Jim Beam and go, yeah.
And then they shouldn't be invited back.
Right.
Right.
At number 2, and a much more reasonable price point of $51.99, the Teeling Single Grain Irish Whiskey. Teeling.
We had that also at
Yes.
the New Potato.
Yes, we did. If you're a fan of wine and whiskey, they say you might be interested to know that Teeling ages its whiskey in California Cabernet Sauvignon casks. It's the same in the same spirit. This whiskey is smooth and almost fruity, making it perfect for year-round drinking. So, there you go.
Number 2.
At number 1, with a
Drum
price
roll,
point
please.
of $9.99.
No.
Jameson Irish Whiskey. I say, okay, you knew it was coming, so why not kick off the list with this fan fave? And by the way, I went to 10 and went up. I don't know if these are really in order of what they think is the best. I don't know if they're really saying that a $10 bottle of Jameson's is better than the $250 bottle of Bushmill 21-year single malt. But they do love the Jamesons. They say it's been around since 1780, and for a good reason. People love it for its high quality but reasonable price point, notes of honey and malted barley, which makes it totally easy to sip and a crowd favorite. If this isn't at your St. Patrick's party, what's your deal? And I will just say, as good as Jameson is, wow, that Jameson that we had today,
the
that's-
Blender's Dog.
that changes everything. That changes just
amazing.
about everything.
By the way, the Blender's Dog. I'm about to try the whiskey after the barley wine.
So you got no. This is not a barley wine. This is an Imperial Stout.
Or the Imperial
this is
Stout.
the
yes,
Alementary
sorry.
Imperial Stout. What can you tell us about the Stout, Ian?
Well, it doesn't say much on the front of the bottle,
No.
but let's turn it around and see what it says. The Alementary Brewing Company in Hawaiian. How did you say this word?
Laniakea is how I've been saying it.
Laniakea means endless heavens and is the name of our
So it is
galactic
Hawaiian.
supercluster in our little solar system. Darker than the deep riches of space, our bourbon barrel-aged Imperial Stout is a reminder that while the universe is vast, we still have a place entirely our own. At 9.6% ABV. This is delicious.
Ian, I'm picking up plenty of coffee and espresso notes.
Coffee and espresso,
It's
big
got
time.
that grittiness to it, not in texture, but in flavor. If gritty can be a flavor, it's got it.
Well, it's got that coffee bitter at the end of it that really finishes nicely. You know, if you like a good cup of coffee that's not sweetened down with a whole bunch of milk and sugar.
Right.
You know,
I'm curious as to why the guys in Hackensack, New Jersey, at the Alementary Brewing Company, which is a very well-respected brewery, by the way. I'm curious why they gave this a Hawaiian name, because the flavor doesn't make me think Hawaiian. When I think Hawaiian, I'm thinking something much, like a fruity sour
I
or
would
an
say
IPA.
pineapples, or your
right,
shirt.
Right, or my shirt.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it doesn't feel Hawaiian, but it does feel delicious. Yeah.
Well, this is really, really nice. It's big. It's full. It's a little viscous.
Yes.
The carbonation is right on it.
And now I
It's
haven't
not
gone back to the
super
whiskey.
high carb. They go well together.
But you-
I
you-
wouldn't say they're a match made in heaven, but they're pretty darn good together.
Well, I will say that both of them are working incredibly well with the Melanio, and this is just such a solidly incredible cigar. And I'm curious, is the integration of the company, the fact that you guys plant the seeds, grow the tobacco, do the whole process happens with you, now even the making of the box. Does that help you keep your costs as reasonable as they are for Oliva Cigars?
Yeah, I mean, we control every aspect of it. So now, I mean, this brings up another point, the unstable condition that Nicaragua is in right now. I mean,
Right.
the government has they're kind of in chaos, and so that affects it also. So, but right now, I mean, we haven't really had any problems. The cigar companies really have a relationship with the government there, and they kind of
Right.
hands off. So,
Because it's got to be one of the biggest industries
Sure.
in Nicaragua, right?
so yeah, I mean, every part of it that we control helps us control cost.
Well, I saw an article earlier this year that said that for the first time in a while, that imported cigar sales were down slightly, but Nicaragua was up dramatically.
Nicaragua's been really hot for about the last 15 years. At one point, it was everything came from the Dominican, then everything came from Honduras. We've been on a Nicaragua roll for quite a while.
We really have, and most of the AJ Fernandez stuff is Nicaragua, and you guys have been just like dominating your corner of the market for quite some time. Is there a sense of, you said you don't really see a lot of new product releases on the horizon, so is the idea just like maintain the quality and just keep steering into the future? What do you think's ahead for you guys?
I'm sure we'll probably come out with something relatively new. Last year we came out with a Melanio Figurado in the Maduro, and the
Right.
Figurado, the traditional Melanio Figurado, the one that we're smoking now, got #1 in Cigar Aficionado in 2014.
Right.
So we may have some limited releases.
Which is cool, yeah. I'll tell you, when you don't come out with something new every other Thursday, it does make it a bigger deal when you do release something new,
Well, I remember at one of the events, I bought an event-only box of cigars that you had available. And I think they were all Figurados in there, weren't they?
I don't think we had one with all Figurados, but
It was
this is when we were
special
doing
sizes.
This is when we were doing
something.
the Studio Tobacco tour, and we were just throwing some prototypes in there and just putting a number on them.
Yeah.
And of course, that's the one that everybody wants. And I'm like, it was never made, and so you tell people they can't have it, and they want it more.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Well, I enjoyed
It's
it.
actually
I
a good
enjoyed it. It was
marketing.
a 5-cigar box, and it had a bunch of different. Had a couple master blends and the Gilberto in there, and it was really nice.
One of the things I've noticed is that anytime I travel, go into a cigar store in a town I haven't been in before, you guys are always there. Like you guys seem to have great reach and representation at retail. Is that clearly this is part of your job? But like, how do you do that? I mean, because there's some cigar companies like you'll see them some places, but you don't see them others. You guys are always there, right? With the Macanudos and the
Sure.
Romeo and Juliet.
And again, I'll go back to the consistency issue. We really pride ourselves on you're smoking today what we were making yesterday. 5 years ago, we're smoking the same thing.
Right.
And that takes a lot of meticulous work.
Yeah, it does.
Well, I think your line also is cohesive and also at the right size, where you almost get looked at in the industry a little bit like some of the boutique brands,
Right.
because you don't have you don't walk in and command an entire wall for your cigar like some of the bigger companies do. You have, but you're everywhere too, which makes a huge difference.
Yeah, and I like to say we have something for everybody. When I do events, I say that 50 times during the event. We have the Connecticut Reserve, the Gilberto Blanc, which are very mild. We have the nub cigars if you like a short fat cigar. We have the Serie V, the Master Blend. Cane F is one of our spiciest cigars.
That's a big cigar.
That
That's
is
a very big
monster.
cigar.
Yes, yes.
That's one that you would pair with when you were asking me earlier about like the peated whiskey.
Right.
That's one that would stand up to that.
To that, right?
And we even have flavored cigars. We have coffee flavored cigars.
right.
With the
I
nub.
have to tell you, I've had many times. I've had all three of the cigars that we have on the table here with coffee, and I'm not a sophisticated coffee drinker. I make coffee at the house in my little Keurig, but I don't put sugar. I don't put milk in it. I drink it straight black, and I love these cigars with coffee.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
Wonderful.
And whiskey.
And whiskey. Oh yeah. Well, depends on what time of day.
Yeah,
And
and Imperial stouts that have a strong coffee flavor to them.
that doesn't.
works
Yeah,
as
it
well.
doesn't suck,
Yeah.
does it?
Trenton, thank you so much for being on the show
My
today.
pleasure.
This has been an absolute blast having you, and thank you for being a part of this brand that really is pretty special to us. I mean, we're Oliva fans, so it's a wonderful thing to be able to celebrate what you guys do.
Well, thank you for what you guys do, just putting the word out there, educating people, and just giving people a format to talk about their passions and how to enjoy life.
Well, that's really what we started out. We were thinking, does the show need some sort of slogan like it's all about the good life or something. I was like, no, you know what? I think people kind of get that.
Kind of get it.
This is about enjoying the things that you enjoy, and to me, there's very few moments in life that are better than having a great cigar and something wonderful to drink. It's just, this is a passion. We love doing it. So thank you for being here. Now, next week, we're very excited. We're going to be doing this for the first time ever on Smoking and Toasting. Yeah, we don't have our little effects box, so Ian's fingers on the table are about as good as it gets.
I don't know if that came through.
I don't know. But thank you for not going brrrr. I appreciate that. Next week, Chris Hart and Alan Denny and maybe another special guest will join us for Smoking and Toasting's first ever whiskey blind taste test. We'll be trying probably about 10 different whiskeys of various price ranges and styles, and we'll be tasting them blind and deciding. I want to do it, Ian, the same way we did when we did the light beer blind taste test. So we'll try them in groups. We'll pick our favorite of the group. We'll rank the group that we just had, let's say 3, 4 at a time, before we know what they are. Then at the end of that segment, we'll reveal what each one was. And then at the end of the whole show, we'll rank our absolute favorites of the day. So, it's really just for fun. But blind taste testing can be really interesting because I will tell you, when we opened up that bottle of Jameson's, based on what we were reading on the label, what we knew about the brand, there were certain expectations that we had for how it was going to taste and what it was going to, what we thought the quality level of it would be. When you taste it blind, you have none of those expectations, and you may come at things with a very different perspective. I would expect, for example, something like the Slane to do very well in a blind taste test, even though it's a much less expensive whiskey.
Well, we all, to some degree, drink, smoke, eat. We do this with our eyes to a large degree.
Right.
Because if it looks awesome and it looks cool, we want to like it.
This looks awesome and cool, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
and that's just the truth about humanity. We just do that. So it's interesting in the blind taste test to see what stands up when you have no idea other than you just see the liquid in the glass.
Yeah.
You guys are putting a lot of pressure on yourselves.
Yeah.
You're gonna learn some things that you don't when you're looking through your eyes and seeing something and the expectations.
I really hope that some of the things that do really, really well in the test will be things that aren't the more expensive and more pricey kind of whiskey. So
as long as you don't have to name the brand.
If this works, then we'll do the same thing with some tequilas and some other things. So one of the things I respect about Cigar Aficionado, assuming that it's true, and they hold true to it, is they do all of their cigar testing blind. Now, it's true that if you handed me one of these without the label on it, I might still have a good idea what it was.
Yeah, some are very distinct.
It's not a perfect system, but still, the fact that it does something to try to even the playing field, I think, is a good thing. So, I still don't understand all of their ratings, but
Before we go, also, if you get a
palate's
chance, check out our YouTube channel at Smoking and Toasting. You'll be able to find us pretty easily on there. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell to let you know whenever we're putting up new content and everything.
Yep. And also, I'll be in New Orleans this weekend, going down with the wife to see a show, and hoping that I will be able to do a segment someplace in some cool little bar or brew room.
Awesome.
So.
And tonight we're going to be at Batanga.
Yes. So come out and join us for that if you're in the Houston area. We are looking forward to it, and it should be very special. Anytime Flor de Caña is involved, I can tell you that I'm expecting good things. So thank you, everyone, for checking out the show today. Thank you again, Trenton Smith from Oliva Cigars. Keep doing what you're doing because we love it. And I will wish all of you a very wonderful week, and cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah.